And hello, everyone, and welcome to today's event. It's an interview workshop which we put along the way after resume building so that we have all the students ready for the summer internship that is coming up for everyone. So, we have a very special guest with us for our workshop today, that is Etherin, and we are all very happy to have her. I'm Chinmay. I'm the event manager and social media director from Professional Development Club. And yes, I would like to pass the mic to Etherin, and I can't wait for her to start the workshop. It is going to be an exciting one, and enjoy, guys. Over to you.
Thank you, Chinmay. A lot of pressure. Hi, everyone. My name is Ehteram Abolbaghaee. Before starting the presentation and talking about myself a little bit, I'd like to share my slides with you, if you give me a second.
Etheram, just sorry to interrupt. We can wait a little bit for the participants.
Sure.
Yeah. So we can wait for another 4 minutes. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I still can share it, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's just that the workshop is going to be a long one today, so we need the whole 1 hour for the session. So we don't want to wait much for participants. I guess we are good to go at 7:03. Is that fine?
Just let me know whenever you see the slides.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. I just need to set everything on my side too. Hopefully it will work today. It has been working well, actually, MS Teams so far.
So you can start.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Ehteram Abolbaghaee. I'm here to talk about how to present yourself, your best self at a job interview. And I'm really excited about this presentation. But before that, I was asked to talk about myself a little bit. That's not an easy task to do. So my education, I'm studying engineering management at the University of Ottawa, like many of you guys and girls. And my background is in IT. I studied computer science from University of Ottawa and also software engineering from Iran long ago. My experience has been more in the government of Canada. I worked for government for 14 years this year. I started by having a student job, FSUAP student, as a student at Statistic Canada in 2007. It was an interesting job. It was the start of my career at the government of Canada. I started as a technical support officer for 2 years. Then I had 1 year work as project officer. It was non-IT job. Basically, I wanted to know the subject matter. At Statistic Canada, they do surveys. So I needed to know how they process surveys. After 1 year, I got an assignment in programming. I didn't have the job as a title as programmer, but I was doing programming, just got an assignment. Then I applied for a recruit program, computer system or CS recruit program at Statistic Canada. And it was very interesting. It was a really great program. I learned a lot. I worked as programmer analyst for about 7 to 8 years. Just in 2019, I got also an acting project lead at the Statistic Canada. And today is actually the anniversary of my work at Canada Revenue Agency. And a year ago, exactly today, I was promoted and applied for a job at Canada Revenue Agency. Currently, I'm IT project lead there. I love my job. It's my dream job, but I work hard for it. So the next thing I like to talk about is my arrival in Canada. I'm like you. I'm not an expert in HR or anything or job interview or anything. I'm just like you. I came to Canada as landed immigrant 20 years ago. I didn't even know English. Most of you speak English well, and you're more equipped than when I was at the time. And I just finished my degree. I came to Canada and I really didn't know what to do. So I'm not an expert. I don't have, again, a degree in HR or anything. I'm just sharing my experience with you. I will answer your questions to the best of my knowledge. And if I don't know the answer, I will look into it and we'll get back to you. So the outline for today, I put this presentation in 4 sections. Types of interview, before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. But after each section, I will pause and ask if you have any question. You don't have to ask the questions, but you can type it in the chat or wait at the end and ask your questions. So does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, moving on. So first item, as I mentioned, I like to talk about types of interview. When I started, I had this presentation ready when the team asked me. And I look online, there are so many other types of interview online. Types that I've never heard, like case interview. It's like they give you a case, they ask you to work on it, or lunch interview. They invite you over lunch and they basically do the interview over the lunch. But I chose 5 types of interview that are more common, um, especially in Canada, and I will define them briefly and then get into the details of each. So the types of interview: traditional interview, phone interview, video interview, group interview, and the career fair interview or job interview. So traditional interview. Basically, you sit down with interviewers and answer a series of questions. I think this is really obvious. Phone interview. It's easy. Typically, what they do, they have a phone interview to screen in employees to choose the right fit for the full interview. Video interview. It's becoming more popular. It existed before the pandemic, but it's becoming more popular, especially after the pandemic. I personally had 1 video interview so far in my whole career and 1 phone interview. So the next type of interview is the group interview. You sit down along other candidates with 1 or more than 1 interviewers and answer a series of questions. And the career fair interview or job fair interview, you will have only 10 to 15 minutes to sell yourself to the recruiter to prove that you can do the job. And this could be also a chance to come for a full interview for later, or you actually can get the job in the job interview. I will explain about the video interview, group interview, and career fair interview a little bit in more details. And then we get into actually traditional interview. Sorry, my mouse is moving fast. So video interview. Prepare like in video interview, prepare like you will go for in-person interview. They still can see you, they still talk to you. Dress to impress and make sure you dress well and professional. You have to make sure you test your tech, the sound, your headphones, your video. Don't sit too close or too far to the camera also. And make sure you will keep eye contact. I had one, video interview that I had was last December 2020. And it was my first interview, and I had to test to make sure, I will look okay, at least for the interview. Sorry, I don't know, my mouse is going too fast tonight. I think because it's not my control. So for video interview, practice your video interviewer skills ahead of time. Write down a few notes, but refer them as little as possible. It's okay because, they know you have everything with you. And show up a few minutes early. It's a good habit that they know, you're punctual. Here in Canada, it's very important to be punctual. And maintain a good posture. And let other people finish speaking. In my job, we have meetings, and sometimes the sound travels later, the video doesn't work properly, and make sure that you wait for them to finish speaking. And group interview. For group interview, it's different type. I attended one group interview when I was applying for my current job. And as I mentioned, there are several candidates sit with one or more than one interviewers. For group interviews, make sure you show up early, relax. There's no competition. There is a competition, but at the same time, they look into each candidates and they choose them. Try to be engaged and make eye contact. Your social attitude it really matters. You need to appear confident, but not showing off, not too aggressive. Don't try not to interrupt other candidates. They might ask the same questions. Again, it's not a competition. They want to make sure how you handle yourself among other candidates. And if they, let's say other candidates, because as I mentioned, they might ask the same question. Other candidates basically answer the question very well. It's good to acknowledge them, but add your own insight and personal experience. Add your own personal experience. In one of my current job that as a project lead at the Canada Revenue Agency, I went for the group interview. I basically didn't know what it was. And we were 6 candidates and 3 interviewers, as you see in the picture, exactly like this picture. And it was a little bit, I was nervous. It was intimidating. And I made a mistake in that group interview. I didn't understand the instructions because they were not exactly asking the same questions one after another from different interviewers. And I noticed after 2 people, it was my turn, and I was supposed to answer 4 questions instead of 1. And I didn't even look into it. So I was nervous. I caught up, but it's important to kind of do your own research ahead of time. For career fair interview or job interview, I love job interviews. I attended one. And I have to say, it was the best day of my career. I know some people get nervous or they don't like it, but I don't know, I like it. You have only 10 to 15 minutes for this type of interview to basically sell yourself and convince the interviewers or the company or organization to take you. It could be a chance for full interview. What you need to do ahead of time, you need to find out who's going to be there, like what organization, what company, what do they do. Basically do your homework ahead of time. And pack a small bag with you because it could be the whole day. And dress for success and comfort when you go there. And don't be shy. It won't work for this type of interview or any interview. You need to go and be ahead of the game. And bring a lot of copy of your resume. In my current job, again, after the group interview, when we passed, I was invited to a job fair or networking event. So there were about 23 departments of government attending that there. And Boy, I did my homework. I had the list of basically departments. I knew what kind of position they wanted. I had the copy of it. I highlighted which one should I go first and which one I'm interested in. So I talked to most of them. Some of them were not really interested to talk to me, uh, but I got their attention. I went there. I wasn't shy. And some of them, I remember one of the departments, I had to go to them twice. I said, you know what? I'm not going to get the job, but I won't stop. So I got a couple of second interview during that event. They would act, they came back to me and asked me, okay, can we talk to you a little bit more about the job? As I said, it was the best day of my career, but I was exhausted at the end, very exhausted. Just to let you know, I don't know if the chat is towards me or people, because I won't be able, I'm not able to see the chat. Everyone, is everything good?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Yes, as I was saying, have a lot of copy of your resume, because it's possible that, you know, you apply for the job before, like through online application, but you updated your resume. You want to make sure they know what you have been doing during this time. And sometimes they're not organized. They don't have a copy of your resume there. So this is the end of types of interview. Does anyone have any question? So I guess I can continue. So next section is what to do before interview. You need to really work ahead of time. You need to put extra effort. I will share my experience, what I didn't do and how I failed. Hopefully you will learn from my experience. You really need to spend some time on it. It's not something that you can do it overnight. And you want to make sure at the end you said, you know what, I have done what I could do. And that's a good satisfaction. Make sure you do your best. For this, before the interview, you need to follow some steps. Step one, know who you are. You might say, you know, I know who I am. Yes, of course you do, but you need to know your strengths and weaknesses. Study your work history. If you ask me, for example, I can tell you since the day I came to Canada, even the date, what have I done so far? Um, and make sure you kind of for yourself highlight your successes and failures. It's okay. You might be asked from them. And study what and think about yourself. What do you want? What you don't want? Because it's just going and getting a job, that's not enough. I can share my experience that for my when I started my job at Canada Review Agency last year, they changed some they did reorg the whole division, and they didn't have the job that I wanted. I look for different job, kind of project lead in different division within the CRA. You can move around the CRA or other departments of government. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to do. I did research on one of the division and the team, and I found out one that their wiki page or Confluence page or website was very organized, and everything was standardized. Everybody was following template. I love that. I love the team that are organized. I knew the training would be easier. I'm 2 months in this job and I already feel comfortable. So it's important to know what you want. Step two, know who they are. You want to apply for a job, you need to research on the company. Go to their website, Google them, you know, try social media, and also know who are you meeting. Sometimes they will send you the name of the people. It's good to know, you know, when they introduce themselves to you too in the interview, and make sure you record the time and location. You don't want to kind of at the last minute, missing the time or the location, especially if you have to drive or take the bus to get there. One of the things that I've done, especially for this, my latest job, as I mentioned, I did research on the division, not necessarily the company, but I did research, and they asked me in the video interview, why do you want to join us? I was honest with them. I said, you're so organized, and I know the training will be easier. Of course, I like what you do, but I noticed you have even template for agenda for the meetings. I've never seen anything like that. They said, yes, we do have a template for agenda. So they were impressed with me going into details of what they have or what they represent. Um, Step 3, review the job description. I cannot tell you how important this step is. You need to read the job description carefully. Highlight your highlight the job requirements and skills. Find out if there will be any tests. Sometimes, in the job description, they have it, and somewhere in just one sentence, they say, or there will be a test conducted, something like that. So you don't want to miss that, because once I missed it. Look up the terms in job description that you don't know. Every company, every organization, every department have their own terms. You want to make sure you understand that because you want to be ready for the questions. And once you look at it, once you study the job description, write down the questions that they ask and prepare your answer. You need to prepare your answers to be ready. One of the this is one of my, I would say, worst experience in my career, but I learned a lot. Uh, in 2007, when I started as F2 student at Statistic Canada, my first job, in 2008, they had an internal job for a programmer, and I really wanted, but I said, you know what? I don't know what do they are. I'm just going to go and learn just as experience. I didn't look at the job description. I wasn't prepared. And when I they started the interview. I never forget, the interviewer was the director of one of the division, and he retired the next year. Halfway through the interview, he said, I really want to take you, but you need to answer the next 2 questions. If you answer the next 2 questions, I will take you. So guess what? I could not answer the questions. It's not that I had no knowledge of it. I was just not ready for the questions. I had to think, and I couldn't come up with the answer. I can tell you, if I had studied even half an hour the job description ahead of interview, I would have had the job. So that was not a great experience. I should say great, but happens. Step 4, review your resume. Know your entire resume. They will ask questions from your resume. Compare the job description to your resume and find the similarities and the differences. Years ago, I think it was 5-6 years ago, I updated my resume. I wanted to, add some extra items to my resume. I went to our job description, our own job description, or that I was, basically doing. I was programming, right? And I took some words from our website. I just copied and pasted in my resume. And I asked my chief, can you please review this, part? And he said, okay. He started looking at it, and he came back and he said, can you explain this paragraph to me? And I looked at it and I couldn't, because it wasn't my words. I didn't lie. I was doing all. But anyway, he said, try to write your own words. You don't need to use big words. You don't need to, try to make it bigger than it is. That was another experience. Step 5, practice, practice, practice. I cannot emphasize enough. Practice all the common questions. Try to get comfortable talking about yourself. I'm very confident talking about myself, but do you know, even for this interview, I had to record it and talk about it, about this job presentation. I practice. It's the truth. Ask your friends or family that you can, like, they can interview you as a practice, or if you can record yourself, see, like, what do you think if you would see it? There are other considerations. Your online reputation is important too. Make sure you have good online reputation out there. Attention to your communication. What do I mean by that? Ask your friends and family, ask your classmates, how do I communicate? Do you think when you ask a question, I actually answer your question right to the point? And know what to wear. I put this couple of slides here. You know, people have different styles and it's all good, but you want to make sure when you go for interview, even for video interview, you look professionally. So the ones with the, basically the photos with the green, you know, frame is better, it's recommended. It's your choice, but it's recommended. So this is end of this section. Does anyone have any question? Okay, moving on. During the interview, you need to know what's coming. There is interview day, there is during the job interview, there is things that interviewer looks for, and most common questions, and at the end, prepare for the second interview. Okay, let's start with interview day. Make sure you're on time. Turn your cell phone off, bring extra copy of your resume, and be nice to all. You never know, the receptionist that you just said hi, or someone who's walking, you know, in the hallway, you might be working with them. So be nice to all and be prepared to wait patiently, because, you know, sometimes interviews running late and you have to wait half an hour or 1 hour. So this depends on assuming you have done your homework ahead of time. Things that it's not recommended, they're not recommended. Do not criticize former employers, co-workers, or professors. Do not ask about salary unless they raise it up or they bring it up. Do not wear excessive, you know, jewelry or perfume, especially perfume, because here in Canada, people have a lot of allergy, you know, it's very common. And try to keep the eye contact and with anyone during the interview. Um, During the job interview, try to speak clearly and have a conversational pace, because they're taking notes. You want to make sure that they don't miss, they're good at it, they know what they're doing, but you want to make sure they you know, don't miss any point. Try to avoid jokes. Some are friendly, that's okay. Have a, you know, a little bit chit chat at the beginning. They might just do some chats, you know, at the beginning to warm up the, you know, the whole atmosphere, but try to avoid the jokes. Take notes if you have any questions while they're explaining the process. Shake hands and smile warmly. So if you know what they're looking for, you know how to prepare. There are things that interviewers look for. They want to know what kind of eye contact you're making with them. First impression, be real, be honest and truthful. They want to know if you actually answer the question that they ask. And be honest if you don't know the answer. If you don't understand the question, ask them to repeat the question. And sometimes it happened to me, I did it and it worked. If I didn't, it happened once that I didn't know the answer. I said, can I come back at the end of to this question at the end of the interview? They accepted. At the end of the interview, I was able to answer the question. It happens. Just make sure you ask them if you don't understand. Um, they want to know if you have the skill to do the job. They design their question based on the skills and the requirement they're looking for. It could be technical or could be behavioral question. They want to know if you have the personality to do the job. And there are jobs that need, you know, public interaction, more communication with people. They want to understand if you're shy, you're not the best fit for the job. They want to know if you're adaptable or flexible. They want to know how you can handle things, or you have handled things, in the past, in your previous job. Adaptability is very important. I think after pandemic, we all learn how to adapt ourselves to the situation. They want to know if you're resourceful. Can you do the job? Can you do the job without help? They want to know if you're a good problem solver. They don't expect you to go and fix the company issues, but they want to make sure if you have a problem in your job, you can solve it. They want to also know if you have initiative. They want to make sure that, let's say as a programmer, you come up with a solution to a problem. You can design an application, but they still want to know you work independently, you are initiative, but you also respect the management. You don't go ahead and design it without getting approval from authority. They want to see if they can work with you on a daily basis, accept you as their, coworker. Are you a positive addition to the workplace? Are you a team player? I cannot emphasize enough how much, I guess, new work environment look for team players. It's very important because it's going to affect the whole team performance. In this section, I want to just, we don't have time for this interview to talk about a lot of questions, but I brought most common questions for this basically presentation. They want to know they ask me, it happened to me. They want to know what is your greatest strength? um, say you don't have work experience, you can talk about your volunteer work, you can talk about your school project. Try to list the things that you're good at it. It could be anything, it doesn't have to be job related, but you can talk about yourself. Compare them to the job description and see if you can connect them. uh, they could ask, what is your weakness? Or have you ever failed in a project? Be truthful. The point is that even if you fail in a project, you talk about it and they say, you know what? Yes, this didn't work, but I learned about it. I learned from it. There were obstacles and I learned my lessons from it. This is the attitude that they're looking for. They might ask a question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? For example, if in a small company, there is a customer service job, so there is not a lot for growth, but they want to have employees that, they stay. So it's important when they ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So this is the end of during the interview. Does anyone have any question? Should I wait longer? Okay, moving on. Okay, does anyone have any question? Okay, let me go back to where I was. Sorry, I missed I think my mouse doesn't work today. It's not cooperating with me. So next section, after the interview, send a thank you note, an email. You might ask, okay, how long after the interview I send a note? It depends on, sometimes 2 days, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks. It depends on the job. For my last job, I responded at least to the offer after 2-3 days. I said, I'm not gonna, it was actually Tuesday. I wanted to answer on Friday. I said, it's too early. I answered the next Tuesday. So it's the time that they check the references. So you need to be patient. Sometimes it takes time for them because they're interviewing a lot of candidates, especially for government. Hopefully all of you will be able to find a job at government, but you need to be patient. And if you didn't get the job, ask for informal discussion. It's very important because if you don't know what you did wrong, you never correct it. I applied for a job before becoming a computer system recruit. I applied for a job and I didn't get the job. And I asked them for informal discussion. It's funny, I got three answers. One, they said, okay, you almost got the job. The other was saying you didn't get the job. Say, oh, you were close. So it's important because it cleared up a lot of things that I needed to improve. So preparing for the second interview. This depends on the employer and it's different. They might ask for the second interview, they might not ask. So they usually call candidates that they are interested in, and they could ask the same question or technical question, or they could come up with a new question. They could mostly will be behavioral competency. Again, it depends on the job. And sometimes they want to talk about the specifics of the job and how well you fit in that skills and as a person. For example, for my last job that I got at CRA, after I went for group interview, I went to the networking event or job fair or career fair interview. And when I responded to one of the offers or said, okay, I'm interested, and they asked me to go and meet one of the managers. I still haven't signed the offer, nothing happened. And okay, they set up a meeting. I went there and I met the manager. I met the director who actually offered me the job later. And I'm sitting in a room and I see one after another manager. 6 managers came to the room. There was no room. They had to bring chairs. It was very stressful. But the fun part is actually I was interviewing them. They started 6 managers talking about what do they do. There were 3 managers. Their job was operational. One was project management, 2 others in different infrastructure. So the strategy of the director was to bring the new candidates to see where do I fit. So I had so much fun because they were talking and I told them it seems that I'm interviewing you, not you are interviewing me. So it was fun. And eventually, after all of this talk, director chose which group I should work for. So, summary. In my opinion, job hunting needs effort and attitude. You need to stay positive. Don't be disappointed. You need to just work. Be yourself. Be confident and truthful. If you don't get the job, don't get discouraged. It's okay. You won't get it in first time. And if you fail, learn from it and start over. Believe me, for last 14 years, that's what I've been doing. And it is a journey and you won't become an expert overnight. And the last recommendation I have, just practice, practice, practice. Does anyone have any question?
So guys, we are starting our Q&A session now. If you have any questions, you can put in chat or you can even feel free to unmute yourself.
So anyone has any question?
First of all, I would like to thank you, Etheram, for giving such a great workshop on interview. And honestly, the whole workshop was divided into different parts, which touch base on each and every part of interview. It was covered like before, after, video, group. It is important for all of us, and this is the phase where we needed. Few of us are graduating, or few of us are looking for internships. So the phase at which the time at which we are conducting this is really important. Like, I know it so happens that we're applying for jobs and suddenly we're like, okay, how do I give an interview? So this workshop really helped for all of us. And you sharing your experiences as an international student was also enlightening, to be frank, because we want to know the story of someone like who joined this as us, like the
Absolutely,
university.
absolutely. I was like you, and I would say I was less equipped. I didn't know English. I didn't have work experience, and I wish I had the same experience as I have now. Believe me. But you know what? Um, Learning is a great experience. you guys are in, engineering management, you're doing your master or undergraduate degree, and you're ready, and you will be all successful. You just have to work on it. It's a different culture, it's the I didn't have resume when I came to Canada. So I went to resume workshops. I learned, I applied for so many jobs. I went to agencies that they would find a job for people. I started from zero, basically, when I couldn't really speak English. So these are the things you learn as you go.
Yeah,
Just be
starting from
patient.
zero is like very true. We do not know anything or anyone. That's very true. So we have few questions. So
Sure.
I would like to this question. Do you find the government interview different from private sector interviews? For example, is there certain criteria for keywords they're looking for? That is
Mhm.
the question.
My basically most experience is with government, but I found that if you are a programmer, for example, I'm talking about programmer because my background is IT, but if you're a programmer, they want to know if you can do your job. But knowing, I found the keywords, yes, government has its own keyword, but as I mentioned, when you research the company, you will learn their keywords. Reviewing the job description and doing your own research, it's making you get familiar with their keywords. But for government, I totally agree. They have their keywords and I had to learn. And the keywords are in poster and job description. That's why I mentioned I could not emphasize enough, read the job description. Those keywords are in the job descriptions.
Okay, so hope we answered your question. So if you have any other doubt, you can put it in chat again. So we have another doubt. Are there any suggested questions to ask the interviewer during or after the interview?
So originally, I had put some questions to ask the interview, but we weren't sure, like it was taking too long. I removed them. But I'm not sure if there will be another event that we can work on. I leave it to Chinmay to talk about it. But usually try to ask the questions about the company, about the job. There was something online about asking the interviewers like personal questions. Oh, how long have you been working? It's okay, but don't get too personal. And you have to uh, check or evaluate the atmosphere there. Some people are friendly. You can talk to them. Some people are not. Some interviewers are not. But they always welcome questions about the job. Uh, for example, you can ask them, oh, what are your team activities, that you do? How is your work environment? Will I be working with other people in a team? How many people are in a team? You can ask about the job, but don't get too personal about it. That's my recommendation.
So the next question is it better to work in the government or private?
Well, I work for government. um, this is I think, personal experience, and I haven't worked for private sectors. Um, I work for 4 months for Carleton University here and there, but um, it depends on what you want. Government has, stability, more stability, pension when you retire. It's more regulated. There's more, I would say, standard. But private companies don't have it. But also private companies have also, I would say, regarding technology, maybe they improve faster too. They update faster. It depends on how you look at it. What's best? What works best for you?
So we have another question from
Sure.
Abdullah.
Oh
What
dear,
is
Abdullah.
the workload?
Uh, what do you mean? The question to ask from the interviewer about workload?
No, the government and private.
Um, I I don't think the workload is different. For example, my husband doesn't work for government. I work for government. So sometimes he has more work, sometimes I have more work. So it depends on what do you do? where do you work, what kind of projects you're working on. Some teams, some departments, some teams, especially in government, they have always, work ready for them, and it just, you can't compare. Even in government, you can't compare one department. You will be busy, at least at government.
So the next question is it a good idea to send a LinkedIn request to the interviewer right after the interview? Or if not, when is the best time?
I don't see anything wrong with making connection and networking anytime. Let me tell you this, actually. Um, the director who approached me in that job fair, and eventually I got the job, before answering his offer, even sending him email response, I went and looked at his LinkedIn. And I sent invitation. And when I went for the second interview, he said, "Oh, you went and checked my LinkedIn." I said, I wasn't sneaky. I just wanted to know who I was dealing with, and that's okay. That's really okay. Just make connection. There's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that.
LinkedIn is meant for that. It's nothing creepy.
Exactly.
We want to know the job description or the kind of team we're
Absolutely.
getting into. There's nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
So we have another question from CS classification. From your personal experience, do you think French is more important or technical skills, certification or training?
Oh dear, that's a very good question. Um, for CS in government, uh, government is how do I say, they promote being bilingual, knowing French and English. So if you are at the level of programmer or programming analyst, you really don't need to know French. But I cannot speak for all the departments, because it's becoming and it's being promoted more and more to learn French. They provide classes. If they especially want to train you, they provide classes. You take your time during your work and take the classes. But when you become a supervisor or team leader, you need to be bilingual. You need to learn French and English. For example, I don't manage people right now, manage projects. But if I want to manage teams, I have to learn French. I started learning French. I passed 2 of the tests. I'm working on the third one. You have to know the reading, writing, and conversation. So I hope I answered the question.
So we have a comment and a question like from Cecilia. In my country, people prefer private and multinational than government. And she's asked, I see a lot of engineering jobs require PENG license. What do you advise for engineering graduates?
For government, I can answer for government. Some companies, let's say private companies, look for certification. Some look for university degrees. It's always good to have it. It's interesting because during my undergraduate, we had a speaker coming from PEO and promoting to have the PENG, and I don't have it. But tonight I was telling my husband I should go and get it, because I probably don't need to pass the test because I have the work experience. But I can tell you it never hurts. But you need to first know how to do the job. So I personally want to go for PMP, get my PNG. I'm halfway because for PMP I studied. I'm kind of ready. I just delay it because right now I'm focusing on my career at the job that I have. But it's recommended. I would say yes, but I don't know about private companies. They might care more, and each company is different. No one can talk on behalf of any company. It depends on where you apply for. Some require some job description. When you read them, they ask for it. They say, oh, this is an asset if you have PMP, for example, or PNG.
So I think the questions are still like meanwhile when that happen, I mean people feel free to put in more questions, and
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, I would like to tell all the participants that, yeah, yes, we are going to have another session. Like it's going to be a part two extended session of this. And since today's session was a great success and we all gained a lot of insights, so the second one will be concentrated more on mock interviews, giving examples as to how not to face an interview. And I really wish all of you to attend that session as well, because practically you'll be able to, attend and see how like the interviewer is going to ask questions and how we have to answer or what we shouldn't do. Maybe a lot of minute tiny details that we miss out, which can also lead to us not getting the job. So that will be covered in the second session, and we will give out the details on that soon as to when we will arrange it. And yeah, there's another question. Okay. Is it true that PENG is for engineering, like for example, civil, mechanical, and less for software domain?
Oh, I haven't heard about that. I don't know this type of question about the designation. You have to contact the organization. I recommend if you have really question, you can go to PEO, for example, Professional Engineering Ontario, I believe. um, but no, I am in software engineering, and I like to get it because here's the thing. In Canada, even if you have engineering degree, you cannot call yourself engineer unless you have that designation. So I can say I studied engineering, software engineering, but I really cannot put on my resume or my LinkedIn. And this is the experience of one of my coworker. He didn't have the designation. He studied software engineering and he put it on his LinkedIn, and he had to pay penalty.
Oh.
Because if you are, this is what I've been told, and this is a personal experience, my coworker. And he said he had to pay penalty. They said, even though you have it, you have to get this designation. Again, I recommend to go to their website. I know it never hurts to get PMP, PNG, but at the end of the day, you can have all of that, but you don't do good on interview, right? That's why we're
Yeah.
here.
So the next question is, any advice on where or how to go about learning French?
um, these are not in the scope of job interview, but I will answer as much as I can. As I mentioned, for government, it's provided. But what I can do, like at the end, maybe I'll do my research. There are classes actually I never attended, but I know for immigrants or I think for international students there are actually free classes you can attend to learn French. I cannot anymore because I'm not a newcomer or landed immigrant. But also there are, for example, I have an app on my cell phone, Duolingo. Like
Yeah.
you can actually practice. There are lots of books out there. You can go to libraries online. And I know that what I can do, I can find Chinmay, if you don't mind, just remind me or send me that
Yeah.
regarding that. There are websites. As I was learning French, there are websites that I know and I can share with everyone to go. And there are kind of you can listen to the conversation. You can watch the videos. There are practice questions. So I'm not a French expert. I'm just learning. I started from zero. I didn't know even alphabets. But at some point I stopped. I was able to, start a conversation, but then this job came up and it was more priority than learning the French.
Yeah, if and Abdullah says that there are few French schools, and yeah,
Mhm.
even I would suggest the Duolingo app because even I use it and it is for free. And we
Yeah.
do at least like as a beginner to get started, it is a great app. Like if you want to
You
say,
know,
hey, how are you? Good
it's
evening.
up to you. It's up
Yeah.
to you. My son is started school as a French immersion, like
Oh,
at a grade kindergarten, and I had no knowledge of French. What I was doing at that time, I was Google the questions. He's in grade 10 now.
oh,
But I still, now I'm still able to read his, because he learns half of the subjects, like for example, science in French. But I had to type it on Google and understand what he said to be able to help him with his homework. So it's a constant. You can find so many things, but you really need to take classes and speak. Don't be shy with language. You can't be shy.
So I guess this is our last question for the session. So it's a behavioral one. It says, what kind of answers does the interviewer expect when they question, where do you see yourself in next 5 years?
Let's say you're asking me. How
Okay.
about that, right?
Hi,
You're
Ed.
asking.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So in 5 years, I like to be able to manage teams. I like to be able to establish a strategy for the organization. Managing team is something, but I like to get there. It's the thing is that, do you actually have a goal for 5 years? If you do, share it with them. And if you don't, think about it. I think it's good for you even to have a goal for each 5 years, have a goal for it. So I would say if you have it, just share with them. It's for them, it's not about your goal. They're not question. There's no wrong answer to it. There is a behavioral, basically competency they're looking for. They want to make sure you have a goal. And if you have a goal and your goal fits within their organization with their mandates, they'll take you. The point is, you try even for your, it's my recommendation as a friend, try to have a goal for 5 years. It's good for the soul.
Okay, so I think the questions are done, but still, guys, if you have any questions, Etheram has shared her email ID. You can send your questions out there, or even in this chat. If you put out the questions, we will forward it to her and we'll make sure all your questions are answered. And thank you so much, Etheram, for such
Oh,
a
it was my pleasure. If you have my email address, you can send me your question. If I don't know, as I said, I will look for them and get back to you.
Yeah. And at the same time, I have sent out a link of our PDC volunteer form. So if you guys are interested to volunteer with the Professional Development Club at our University of Ottawa, then feel free to join the group while filling out the form. And then the different groups that we have, you can take part in social media, marketing, or digital marketing, or this, as well as graphic designing, web designing, event managers. So we have different groups who take care of these things in the club, and we organize career fairs for students alongside answering questions on how to apply for a co-op visa, or is this program eligible, or which programs are eligible, which are not. So feel free to reach out to us. And even at the same time, if you guys have any ideas to arrange events for our club, feel free to reach out to us and we will make it happen. And any trouble you're facing with respect to, anything in the university, with respect to volunteer jobs or interviews, you don't know where to go, then we are the place where you have to come. So feel free to go to our website, fill the form if you're interested, and if you have any doubts, reach out to us. Thank you again, Nehran.
Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you, and reach out to me if you have any question. Thank you again. I'm so glad to get to know every one of you, especially the club, and I'm looking forward to work with you again.
We were glad to have you.